Hello, and welcome to I Am Dad Podcast with your fatherhood authority, Kenneth Braswell. 30 minutes of wisdom, information, resources, and nuggets to help you on your fatherhood journey. Or maybe you're just curious and want to hear some real talk about fatherhood, family, and the minds of men. Well, guess what? We got you too. Sit back, grab your pad and pen, and maybe even bring a little something to sip on. Enjoy 30 straight minutes of fatherhood, family, and fun with the Fatherhood Authority, Kenneth Braswell.
Welcome to I Am Dad Podcast. I'm your host, Kenneth Braswell. Thank you for joining us another Sunday for a new episode. Continuing to roll through 2025, at least the beginning of 2025, right? Every year at the beginning of the year, it's like, we got a long year ahead of us. And then all of a sudden, bam, it's December. It's over. It's just like that. But that's life, right? That's how life happens to us. And so we've had a great month so far. We're continuing with great guests in our fourth season. We're excited about the new format and what we're trying to bring to you, bringing you some segments and kind of putting some entertainment and stuff in the podcast to keep you guys locked in for the rest of the year. Make sure you subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on or listening on Podbean, Spotify, wherever you're listening. Gotta subscribe. It helps our algorithms. It helps us get more followers, and it helps our content move deeper into the space. But I got a great guest and friend today. He is Darryl C. Green. He is a transformative voice in the realms of healing, reconciliation, and forgiveness. As the president and principal consultant of Deep Forgiveness, a nonprofit dedicated to restoring families and empowering disenfranchised communities, Green combines his profound personal experiences with professional expertise to create meaningful change. His journey, inspired by the tragic loss of his brother, has made him a sought-after speaker, author, and motivator, touching lives across the United States and beyond. With advanced degrees in criminal justice and social work, Green is also a dedicated educator, shaping the next generation of changemakers as a professor at Morgan State University. A devoted husband to two daughters, Green's commitment to forgiveness and healing extends deeply into his personal and professional life. Today, we have the privilege of exploring his work, his perspective on fatherhood, and his vision for a world transformed by reconciliation.
What's going on?
This is my man, Darryl Green. What's up, sir?
What's up, Doc? How are you, sir? How are you? Listen, Ken, I just want to say thank you, man. Thank you for allowing me to come on, man, and be able to go on this journey, this healing journey with your listening audience, man. So thank you. And you've been doing amazing work, man. So keep up the good work in the village. But thank you, man, for having me on, sir.
Thank you. At last we met. You and I was in Omaha, Nebraska.
Omaha, that's right. Yes, sir.
Omaha, Nebraska.
Yes, sir. Yes, putting in work
with our man Willie Hamilton. Working with his folks out there in Omaha, Nebraska.
Yeah, Brother David Miller, those folks. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Know you've been on your grind, man. You've been overseas. You going international, man. What's up?
Hey, man, listen. Let me just say, in spirit of diversity, whatever higher power you believe in, your God is awesome too. But my God is amazing, man. And so man, he's just doing his work, man. So we had an opportunity to speak in Tel Aviv, Israel, man, Jerusalem. Ghana, West Africa. We've been doing some work, man. So just trying to help folks to heal and help folks to take their power back.
Wow. So before we get started, we start off our podcast with a very interesting concept that helps set the stage and then gets people to come a little deeper into your life. And you can respond to this in any way you want. I'm not going to coach you into how to respond to it, but it's very simple. Tell us your daddy story.
Ooh. That's being a father or
I told you, don't ask me to guide you.
Okay.
Tell us your daddy story.
Let me just say, a daddy story. I'll just talk about my girls. I've got two girls, right? And thank God for them, because they have taught me so much about how they move, how they interact, the emotional side of it. And so, I had to learn how to read the room uh, really quickly to analyze what's happening. But each one of my girls, one's 26, Rebecca Lucille Priscilla Shanti Green, and Lillian Lucille Priscilla um, Nia Green. And so both of them has just given me um, different tools, man. So my daddy story, man, is um, I'm blessed that they let me hang out with them, and
Mm,
and but I it's a privilege for me to be a father. Um,
mhm,
God gave me an assignment, right? Um, and whatever the assignment is, you gotta be a good steward over it, right? And so,
mhm.
man, I'm excited, dude. Let me just say, but Ken, my wife and I lost 5 babies before. I was
Wow.
starving to be a father. And I was like, man, I worked at the Annie Casey Foundation 13 and a half years, running father program, all that stuff. And we struggled to conceive, man. And when we did, Rebecca was 2 pounds at birth, 2 months premature, itty bitty little thing. And I just knew God gave me that gift of being a father. And
Mm.
it is so precious. So, daddy story, I probably got a million daddy stories, but I'll just say that I'm thankful and honored, man, to be the father of Rebecca Green and Lillian Green, man. And I could have hit it from another way from my relationship that I have with my own father, right?
Mhm,
And having to, um, he didn't come from he came from a different generation, right? So he didn't come from "I love you." He didn't come from it was a handshake. It wasn't no hug. It wasn't any of those things. And so um, I told my father that I would always tell him I loved him, Ken, and he would say to me, "Yeah, me too," and hang up. And I remember one time I just called back. I said, "Pop, I know you love me, but won't you just tell me you love me?" And
mm,
ever since then, if I talk to him 19 times a day, he'll try to beat me to it, to saying he loved me. But that was a teachable moment or a father moment for me, that a lot of times the teaching doesn't come from the top down, being father. Sometimes it comes from the kids up, man. And so my dad wasn't father story. My dad wasn't a hugger. It was a
mm,
handshake. So one time I stuck my hand out, kid, I just pulled him right on in and hugged him,
mm.
and now we hug. And so I've got a million daddy stories, man. But I'm proud to be the son of Charles Cotton and the father of Rebecca and Lillian.
Yeah, no, that's dope. That's why I say it, and people always say, "So how do you?" I was like, "Your daddy story is your daddy
Yes,
story.
sir.
I can't prep and prime your daddy
Yes, sir.
story.
Yes, sir.
Like if I say, tell me your daddy
Yeah,
story,
yeah,
however it
yeah,
comes out
yeah,
of your mouth
yeah, yeah,
tells me
yeah,
something
man.
about you,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
right? And so if I guide
Yeah, yeah.
you,
No, I
then
got
I'm
you.
missing,
No, I got
right? And so it's amazing because I was telling my wife one day, I said, we're moving into our fourth
you.
year. And so I have close to 150 episodes,
Amen.
which means I have about 150 daddy
Come
stories.
on. Come on.
That at some point I'm going to go back
Yeah.
and try to capture
Yeah.
all of these daddy stories and write a book about
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
And hopefully, stories like give me a thread of something. I don't know what it
Mm-hmm.
is,
Mm-hmm.
but it is my intention to go back through every last episode I've ever done
Yeah.
and strip this beginning piece
Yeah.
of these
Yeah.
shows and compile them into the I Am Dad podcast, Daddy
Yeah,
Stories,
man.
and
Yeah.
tell these stories
Yeah,
with
man.
the hope that folks can get healed from it because they've been all over the place, bro. They've been
Mm-hmm.
every week.
Yeah.
And then and my closest friends, like I tell people now, like I thought that I would do this podcast for a year
Mm-hmm.
and I'd be done with it and move on to something else.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm in the fourth
Mm-hmm.
year. And the reason
Mm-hmm.
I keep doing it
Mm-hmm.
is because I create so many special relationships with people and I get pulled deeper and
Yes,
deeper
sir.
into the
Yes, sir.
space
Yes, sir.
because I know people on a much more deeper
Yeah.
level because of our conversations, which I'm sure it has already happened with you and I because we've talked in depth
Yes,
about
sir.
a lot
Yes,
of
sir.
different things. but it will move us in that space. Darryl, talk to me a little bit about, because you have a couple of degrees in criminal justice and in also in social work,
Mm.
but you had an incident happen in your life, but I could not tell whether or not the incident happened after you had already gone down that academic track or before. Which came first, the education or the
The
situation with your
situation,
brother?
well, simultaneously, I was a junior. I was a junior at Pfeiffer College University now in Meisenheimer, North Carolina. But having a criminal going for a criminal justice degree, my thought I was going to go to work for the FBI. However, it didn't work that way, and so I was a junior when my younger brother was he was
Hmm.
killed in a bowling alley, y'all. To all the folks under the sound of my voice and to the listening audience, uh, he was killed over a pair of tennis shoes. My brother was 6'5", Ken, 255. He won the shot put in distance his junior year, 3.5 GPA. Every college university wanted him, man. Was a great kid. And he went bowling and he checked his shoes to use their shoes. And a 14-year-old kid went behind the counter. Altercation broke out. And the result of it, management threw the other kid out, let my brother go back to bowl. As my brother went to bowl, that young kid, Ken, went home and armed himself, and then he waited for my brother, and he stabbed him. I was a junior in college, and um, he was taking a shock trauma here, and 4 days later he died in shock trauma. And the young man was sentenced to life in prison. In Maryland, life means your natural life. That means you're getting out. And so I was angry, Ken, for a long time. I don't know how much longer you want me to go into the piece, but I was,
Oh,
yeah,
keep going, bro. It's your show.
I was angry, y'all. Listening audience and Ken, I was angry for a long time. And when that happened to my younger brother, again, I was a junior in North Carolina. I came home with a 9mm German Luger to kill him, his mother, his father, his sister, his brother, the dog, the goldfish. Hell, I was angry. I wanted to kill them all. Mm, I wanted his family to feel the same pain, the same hurt that my family felt. Right, but that didn't happen. He got sentenced to life in prison. Um, and I began my healing journey, right? But being imagine being angry for 2 decades. And
Hmm.
one day I just said, hey, and so because I wanted to understand when you talked about the educational piece, BA in criminal justice, then I went to Coppin State and got my first master's in criminal justice because I wanted to understand the criminal mind. I wanted to understand how they thought, right? How they move, the criminal justice system, that sort of stuff. Um, and then the second master's in social work because I wanted to understand human behavior. So I didn't
Hmm.
know that the death of my brother was going to steer me into that piece, but I've merged the criminal justice work with also with social work, and Lord willing, the creek don't rise. Hopefully this time next year, man, I have my PhD, as you mentioned, from the illustrious National Treasure Morgan State University School of Social Work. I'm a doctoral candidate now. So
Right.
we pushing forward, man. So we're doing the work, man.
Mhm. What did you learn? What did you learn? Was there anything that stands out in your mind that was an epiphany point, like when you was in a class and you was like, "Oh snap!"
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
I'm sure that had to happen a few times.
well, well. Selfishly, I've always wanted to have a conversation with him. Selfishly, the young man who took my brother's life. Selfishly, I wanted to. I need because this kid was 14 years old, right? And what happened for me, I asked God to take the anger off of me because I was angry through 2 decades. And I said,
Mhm.
and I didn't know what he was gonna give me, but he gave me forgiveness. And so when he gave me that forgiveness, then I began my healing journey even more. So much so, folks that Ken, you know it, but folks in the listening audience, once this young man served 25 years in jail, I went to court and I testified on his behalf for his release, i.e., I forgave him. Um, we can forgive just because we can. Um, and so I forgave him, and then again, that conversation I just talked about earlier, um,
Mhm.
his mom and his auntie came to my work. I was working for Catholic Charities, and
Yeah, but
yeah,
before we go there, I wanna go back
okay,
to your academics. I wanna go back to your
okay.
criminal justice stuff. What in there was epiphany points for you? What did you learn as a result of going after your criminal justice degree that gave you some information that you didn't have before?
Well, I started looking through a different set of lenses, right? I started looking at this kid because he was 14, right? I started looking at the criminal
Mhm,
justice system. Dude, are you reforming? Y'all didn't ask us, should he spend the rest of his life in jail, right? Um,
mhm,
so it was epiphany for me. Merging the two worlds was hurt people, and then
mhm,
I needed to be on the other side, which was healing. Um,
mhm,
I didn't know how it was going to happen. I didn't know what it was going to look like. I just knew um, God had another assignment for me. Um,
mhm. And the reason that I ask you
yeah.
that is because oftentimes when people go through tragic situations, they'll decide to go to school for whatever it is,
Mhm.
right? In your case, criminal justice. People will go after their psychology degree,
Mhm.
they'll go after their sociology degree, they'll go after degree on substance abuse, homelessness, domestic violence, anything of those things,
Right.
and they go to school.
Mhm.
And the reason I ask you that question because there's also a school of thought where when you have a calling and when you have a purpose,
Mhm.
nothing's really going to change for you by going to school. The
Mhm.
passion that you have to do the work is already in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm always have been curious for the folks that I've talked to who
Mhm.
said, I decided to go to school because of X.
Mhm.
And I always say, well, what did that teach you that you didn't already know?
Right.
Or
Right.
did that validate
Right.
or credentialize
Right.
things that you knew? But in a classroom, you're like, oh, yeah, I already knew that. I already knew
Right.
that because you already had life
Right.
experiences.
We're already there. Yeah. We're already there.
You're already
Yeah.
there,
We're already there.
right?
And
And
my
so,
life experience, Ken, was revenge and retaliation. And I'm sure wherever you grew up, your life experience was, if you hurt one of mine, I'm gonna hurt three or four of yours. And it was an eye for an
right.
eye, a two for whatever. And so um, I just knew that I needed to be on the other side, Ken, of the healing.
Mhm.
But my initial goal was to go get my BA in criminal justice, go to work for the FBI, work 20 years, get me a boat, and be down in Florida fishing. but but it didn't work that way.
Yeah, it wasn't your plan.
No
It
sir,
wasn't your
no
purpose.
sir, no sir.
But at some point, you realized that you had to kind of structuralize what you were doing, and you created deep forgiveness,
Yes,
right? And you began to start putting some framework
yes.
around the actual work that you were trying to accomplish. Talk about the journey and what it took to for you to be able to create that organization.
Well, let me just say, thank you for asking a great question. Um, I was working at Catholic Charities, man, and there's a director there, and uh, it was an incident that happened, and between my director and I was like, it's time to go. And so it was, she decided, we were going to go in a different direction, and I said no. And so that right there, a light bulb clicked on, man. I says, God's got another assignment for me, and this ain't it. And I I was already doing a forgiveness piece, and it was already called deep forgiveness. And I gave him my 30-day recognition, my 30-day resignation. They gave me a whole big party at the end. It was beautiful, and I just stepped out on faith, man. I just stepped out. I didn't know what it was going to be, and truth be told, man, one of the stories in the book is $4.23, where I stepped out, and I'm starting to trying to start deep forgiveness, man. And bro, I'm driving Uber in the S500, Ken. I'm driving
Mm,
Uber, right? I'm doing all kinds of stuff just to try to just to try to make this thing happen. I remember my wife and I had four shirts, one purple and gold, and I'll show it to you before the end of the show. which is our signature purple and gold, deep forgiveness. Those shirts are all over the world. We went to this music festival, and we had all these flyers. Ken, we're passing out house music. We're passing it out, and at the end of the festival, my wife and my two girls, there's all this white paper on the ground, and it was our flyers all
Mm.
over the ground. And so it was a little discouraging, man, but we just try to keep moving, keep moving. And now, we're on the front cover of People magazine, June 12th, 2023, we're speaking in Tel Aviv. So but let me just say, my man upstairs, he gets all the glory. I don't want to sound churchy, Ken, and I don't want to your listening audience.
Your show. You could do.
Yeah,
I'm churchy. I
yeah,
get churchy
but for
too.
me, I know who woke me up this morning, man, and it's a blessing to be
Right.
able to, to do his work. That's what I work for today, man. Travel across the
Mhm.
country and helping folks to heal.
Yeah. Nah, you got to live your truth.
Yeah, yeah.
And you got to tell it from your truth.
Hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with your truth being based in your spiritual
Yes, sir.
belief.
Yes, sir.
And so that ain't got nothing to do with nobody else.
Yes,
If you
sir.
can't get where my inspiration comes from, then that's not a me problem.
Yeah,
That's a you problem,
without a doubt. Hmm.
right? So don't apologize for
Yeah.
that. You know who I learned that from? Dr. Ronald L. Mincy.
Dr. Mincy, brother Mincy. Yes, sir. Just had a chance to
He
see
was
him. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he was him and I was somewhere and he was speaking and this dude got up in the audience talking about, well, if you stop using Jesus so much, maybe people can understand and hear what you're
Mm,
saying. And I never seen Dr. Mincy rear back. But
right,
it was a calm, confident, like
right,
he just kind of, you know,
right. And
I'm getting ready to eat you,
right,
bro.
right, right.
He came back, and that's when he basically said what I just said. He
Mm,
went deeper than I
mm-hmm,
did,
mm-hmm.
but basically his message was, "Don't ever try to dismiss
Yeah, man.
what
Yeah, man.
motivation is at the center of my life. If you don't like it, then you can leave."
That's right. But I
Uh,
speak so many places, Ken, and what I always say in the spirit of diversity, if you worship a rock, I'm a rock with you. That's just not who I'm. I'm not there. So, but I always do it because um, that could be a separator. It could be a divider, and I'm like, no, we're talking about healing. We're talking about coming together and
right,
loving. If the world can love more,
right,
if we could love more,
absolutely.
imagine what it would be. So
Hmm.
I didn't. Let me add to the piece as well, Ken. Is that for the listening audience? 3 weeks later, this guy came to my young man who took my brother's life after 25 years. Called me, his mother, his auntie called me and asked, "Is this Darryl Green?" I said, "Yes." And they said, "Can you come outside?" I said, "I'm teaching." And they said, "Please, we have a gift for you." And on the steps of Catholic Charities, man, I came outside on a hot July day. It was a young man who took my brother's life, his mom and his auntie. And we cried and prayed and cried and prayed. And 1 week later, I had him to come back. As a social worker, man, sometimes we got to go backwards in order to move forward. And we had
Hmm.
like let's come to Jesus meeting. Um, it was just him and I in a room. Um, and the most important piece was, and I began to film. I asked the question was, how did he feel when we said that we forgave him? Because
Mm,
in open court, we went back and we forgave him, and in court, I asked the judge, could I shake his hand? Um, and for the listening audience, he had a three-piece suit on, y'all. He had
hmm,
which was shackles here, shackles
hmm,
around his waist, and shackles around his ankles. And I asked the bailiffs, could I shake his hand? And bailiffs like, oh no, that's not going to happen. Don't you watch True TV when they jumping over, throwing chairs and all that stuff? And I said, well, you must not have heard me speak for the last 45 minutes. I'll ask the judge. The judge said, if not, a man opposes. And so I went beyond those little swinging doors. Um,
hmm,
and both bailiffs on side of me. And when he shook my hand like this. And
hmm,
and what I said to him was that you've been known for taking life. Now let's you and I go save some lives together. And fast forward 3 weeks later, I mean, we have a meeting and it's just him and I. And so, man, he's my partner now. I work with him. I forgave him. We travel all across the country in some parts of the world, man, trying to help other folks to heal. And I'm glad I'm on the show today, man, and that it's happening at this time of year because a lot of us have been stuck, Ken. A lot of the men that's under the sound of your out voices right now are stuck and been stuck for a minute. And I'm saying,
Mhm.
um, when you going to take your power back? Because
Yeah.
forgiveness is not for the other person; it's for you. And one of the
Hmm.
hardest things to do, y'all, is to forgive yourself. It's self forgiveness. That's one of the hardest things to do because I don't know about you, but can't nobody be harder on me than me, right? And so um, I just know, Ken, man, and for all the fathers and anybody else that's listening, man, that we are better than the worst thing we've ever done. But you got to stay in the fight. You got to stay in the fight. I don't care if they not letting you see the babies, whatever, whatever. Sneak around Aunt Carol's house, peek through the window, whatever, whatever. But until you take your power back, you're never gonna be free.
Yeah.
You're never gonna be free, man. When I forgave the kid
Hmm.
who killed my brother, y'all, I was free. I was so light. I was whatever. I'm not saying for you to forget. I'm just telling
Hmm.
you, forgiveness is for you, and it ain't for the other person. Well, they don't deserve it. They don't whatever. It ain't for them.
Hmm.
Watch this. Don't you deserve it? We give
Yeah.
everybody else grace, Ken. We give everybody else grace. Why don't we give ourselves some grace? And so I'm just super excited,
Yeah.
man, that we get a chance to talk about healing, reconciliation, forgiveness um,
Hmm.
toward the last quarter, so they don't take that madness or that into 2025, man. I say all the time,
Hmm.
cats, he said, bag lady, you gonna miss your bus, carrying all them bags like that. I would submit to you, and you are on and off planes all the time. What they tell you when you come on a plane, you can bring one personal item and one piece of luggage. A lot of
Hmm.
us got too much baggage. We gonna miss our flight. So, Ken,
Right.
thank you for
And we get
allowing.
upset when they get told you can't bring that on the
Come
plane.
on, man. And
Yeah, 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 yeah.
how's that working for you? How's that?
Right.
Yeah, how's that
Let's
working for you, bro?
talk about like give me your definition. What is forgiveness? Because I think that some people don't really know what it is. Some people think that it's just as simple as saying, and it could be in some instances, but I'm sure there's more to it. That it is just as simple as saying, "I forgive you." But what is
It,
forgiveness?
it's a decision. It's a decision. Period. You can choose to forgive. I'm not asking you to let the people set on the front row of your life anymore. I'm not asking you to forget, but I'm telling you it is a decision. It's a choice that you make that you're gonna move toward from the darkness into the light. But I'm not making it sound that easy because it's a process, right? It's a
Right.
process. Um, in my own situation, Ken, the young man who took my brother's life, we work together. He's in my passenger seat. And sometimes I get wild thoughts. And, we might be on a stage together and he'll say something that triggered me to make me go
Mm,
back to, woo. Um, and and it's like a 12 NAAA, it's like a 12-step program. Sometimes you get to step 9, something happened, you down back to 6, or you back to 3.
mhm.
You don't get off the piece, but it's a process. And you got to decide that I want my peace. I want my joy. I want to take my power back, and nobody can have that, right?
Mhm.
And I'm moving towards
Mhm.
healing. I'm not folks, I'm saying stop being bitter and be better, right?
Mm.
It's just a decision. You can you can forgive just because you can.
Right.
But I'm not saying, but what I'm saying is that I'm not saying to have them to sit on the front row. There's only so many seats on the front row of your life.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, what was your process though? Because you had to walk through. You said 2 years of being angry. Like you
Two
had to
decades,
say,
yes, sir.
I got to be able. 10 years. I got to be able to do one, two, three, X, Y, and Z before I even make a decision that I want to forgive.
Mhm.
Like, what are those things? Because people, while they may want to forgive, they don't even know what to do first.
Right. Move towards the light. Now, for me, I said to you I was angry for 20 years. I was angry. I didn't want to be angry anymore. And I just
Mm,
started moving towards healing, right? Healing myself, self-care, going to the gym, taking whatever it was that I was not going to consume myself because um people are who they are, okay? And they gonna do what they want to do. I'm saying I'm not there anymore. You stay there. I'm moving towards a
mhm,
light. I'm moving to because listen, there's a direct correlation. You wonder why your hair falling out. You wonder why you sick. You wonder why this. You wonder why that. Because you holding on to that, and it's a sick. It's a disease.
mhm, mhm,
And I'm
mhm.
saying, man, some of us get stuck and we comfortable being stuck. So I don't. If I knew the whole process, I'd be a multi whatever. But forgiveness is for you. And the first step for me was I didn't want to be in pain anymore.
Mhm,
I
mhm.
needed to move from that space, right? Whether it's going to church, whatever it is. Some of us, listen, the marriage just didn't work, Ken.
Right.
It just didn't work. But it's
Mhm.
how long you been divorced? 11 years. And you still bitter? You still angry? That person has moved on, other children, whatever, whatever. And I'm saying, how's that working for you? You in the house
Right.
with black plastic bags up at your windows, all your windows and
Mm,
all your doors, because you want to stay in the dark. I'm saying no. Mm-mm. So for me,
mhm,
it was a decision of I didn't want to be angry anymore. And then I started working on me and healing me. And then I could see, I never seen through the lenses of a 14-year-old. I mean, I began to look through the lenses of this 14-year-old kid who took my brother's life. He was a baby.
mhm,
He was a child.
mhm,
He was, his mind, his brain wasn't even developed yet. But he made a
mhm.
decision that he couldn't take back. Right. And so I began to look at him. I began to look at his life. What was his life like? I began to look at all those things. Um, and I said, wow, that, you know, don't we all deserve a second chance?
Mhm, mhm.
But
Yeah, some people also think that they have to be spiritual in order to forgive. They
no,
think it's a spiritual thing,
no, it's a
right?
decision.
Just dispel that myth.
Yeah, no, it's a decision. Well, it's in the Bible. Forgiveness is in the Bible. How many times, they says forgive 70, what's that, 7 times 70, right? A day you're
Yeah.
supposed to forgive. But it's not connected to religion. It's connected to um whether I want to stay here or whether I want to
Mhm.
um move towards the light, man. You can
Right.
tie it all to religion. However, you don't have to be religious and all that other stuff for forgiveness to work for you. It's a decision. It's a decision.
Mhm.
I Yeah.
Do you think do you think it's harder to forgive someone you don't know or someone you know?
Woo. Um, that's an interesting question. I often get the question of um if this kid was 26 instead of 14, would you look at him? Would you been able
Mhm,
to forgive him? If he was
mhm,
36 instead of 14, would have you taken a different perspective? I mean, you know, it wasn't gonna bring my brother back, but it helped me towards that healing. It helped me towards that. that healing piece, man. So, but you said, 1 second, um, that family hurt is a different kind of hurt.
Well, that's where I was going next. That's why I said no and don't know, because I think the deepest
uh
one
yeah,
is when
it,
it's
they
family.
right there, man. You know, other
Yeah,
folks who hurt you, you can decide not to see them. Some
right,
folks you gonna see them every Turkey Day at Big Mama house. Uh, you know,
right.
um, but yeah, um,
Here's what I think the difference is, though, with family and with loved ones,
hmm
because we have to include spouses
hmm
in that as well, and even romantic relationships to a certain
hmm
extent, is that in those situations we have a precluded expectation of them.
hmm hmm
And when they
Yes,
don't
sir.
meet those
Yes, sir.
expectations, it's very difficult to forgive
hmm
because it is expected that you do this.
hmm
Someone you don't know,
hmm
that doesn't really come into the equation,
hmm
right?
hmm
That you have no expectation of them other than humanitarian,
Right.
right? As one human to another.
hmm
But, when it comes to family, particularly parents,
hmm
and particularly in my space, daddies,
Yes, sir.
like when you start talking to people about you got to forgive your daddy, I was there
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
I got in this work.
Yeah.
I was adamant,
Yeah.
oh, that ain't ever
Right.
gonna happen.
Right. 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 Look at you now.
Right? But it is because I had an expectation of him
hmm
that I believed he was supposed to live up to, and
hmm
he failed
hmm
as
hmm
a result of that,
hmm
which made it very, very difficult. And then the second piece of this, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, is that even going through the act of forgiveness, I still had a fear that he could still possibly let me down.
hmm hmm Yes. You know that he's gonna show up. He's supposed to show up at 4 o'clock. It's 4:30, 5 o'clock. I'm still at the window. We have that because we're human, right? And we don't want to be hurt anymore. Um, you know, uh, and in those pieces, we take baby steps, right? We take baby steps. Okay, and Morgan is beautiful because I have we have those difficult but courageous conversations about their fathers, and there's a variation of folks in the room. Um, but I tell you, man, um, our babies are hurting. So when you said
Mm,
you had the expectation from your father, right, that he didn't, that's a different. Sister told me in class maybe 3 weeks ago, says, I have no more tears for my father.
mm,
And that crushed me because I'm a girl dad, right? And the emotions, and a lot of times things happen and it has nothing to do with you, dad. That's just emotions, that's just whatever, and all the other stuff that's going through. But to hear that, um, but also to say, hey, listen, um, don't don't give up. Write him a letter.
right,
Write him a letter and put it
right,
all down and be able to
right.
give it to him, because I see on a university campus and in high schools and in middle schools, can we see it?
Mm,
That whole father starvation, right?
mm-hmm,
Um, and some folks again will say, no hurt like the hurt that your father could do, whether it's a male or female. Um, but yeah, it's those expectations that we don't, because she said my father disappointed me,
see, yep, yeah, yeah.
and he did things that I never thought. And what I said to him was, well, maybe he was doing the best he knew how.
Mm,
I'm not letting him off the hook, but maybe he was doing the best he know how. Because the work, man. You never know the relationship between your father and your grandfather and your great grandfather. How far does this thing go back? Um, and so beginning to get the young folks to say, okay, this is where we are now. How, where do you want it to go? and you can control that. You can control a portion of that narrative, and I'm happy to say, man, that these young folks are creating space for their fathers. So I just say, fathers, don't give up, man. You got to stay in the fight and forgive yourself if you wasn't there. Forgive yourself for
Yeah.
your shortcomings. Um,
Mm-hmm.
take take your foot off your own neck, dads. Give yourself a break and stay in the fight, but forgive yourself. But forgiveness is, um, I see the relationship or the lack relationship that you have with your father, man. That's something, man. And you got grown men. My frat brother um, shook my hand at this huge Mardi Gras maybe about a month and a half ago, and he said, "Thank you." He said, "I ain't talked to my father. I haven't. My father is 85, and I'm 62, and I just shook his hand for the first time."
Wow.
He said, if you can forgive the kid who killed your brother, who took your brother's life, surely I can forgive my father. He's 85, right? Right now,
Mm-hmm.
we got brothers and sisters not speaking to each other, husbands and wives, fathers and sons, mothers and daughters. And so all we trying to do, Ken, is be the conduit, right? To help move you from being in bondage to being free. And
Yeah.
and and so, man, that pain, that pain of that thing not always being right, because the relationships are so delicate, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah.
You gotta pass it, baby, from gently like a baby from one generation to the next. And if you screw it up, it
Right.
might be screwed up for a while, man. But um, I get to hear the pain, dads. I'm saying, forgive yourself, stay in the fight, and be open to listening.
So one of the other times that forgiveness is very difficult, and I'm sure you see this
Mm-hmm.
sometime as well, is in romantic
Mm-hmm.
relationships, including marriages,
Mm-hmm.
when infidelity
Mm-hmm.
is at the core of that.
Mm-hmm.
How does that show up in terms of forgiveness? Because when that
Yeah.
happens, it is, again, it is a breach of
Yeah.
contract. It is a letdown of
Yeah.
expectation of things you promised me
Yeah.
and committed to
Yeah.
me, and you broke that
Yeah.
trust. Trust is a hard. You talk about forgiveness. I think,
You can't fool with trust,
uh,
baby. You can't fool with it. You can't
yeah,
fool with it. You can't fool with trust, man. You can't fool with trust, brother, because once it's broken, it's a problem. Um, but when we talk about infidelity and building that trust back, man, as we said, trust is so fragile, right? If you touch it and look at it wrong, it could go astray. It could be a problem. Um, you know, you got to be willing to be in the fight for the long haul. If you go and decide,
mm,
I'm just coaching here. If you're going to decide, if both of you guys are going to decide that y'all going, we gonna weather the storm, we're gonna go through this, but just know whether he's going to look at you a little differently now because you've cheated,
mm,
or she's going to look at you now a little differently. And there's going to be a lot of questions. There's going to be a lot, where you going, how you doing, what. If you're not ready for that kind of fight, um, or being resilient enough to weather that storm, because there's light at the end of the tunnel. I'm not saying that all those relationships are going to work, um, but
mhm.
if you listen, man, marriage is like a business, bro. What you put in
Yeah.
is what you gonna get out. If you don't put nothing in, deposit nothing out, you sure can't take nothing out. But that fooling with trust and infidelity, that's a tough road. You may never, truth be told, Ken, watch this, man. You may never get to forgiveness, man.
Mm.
Truth be told,
You what you get to is possibly acceptance, but not
right?
forgiveness.
Or right, acceptance, healing, maybe some reconciliation. But but healing is so I can wake up in the day. I can wake up today. I can go about my day. I don't have to be secluded to this one room with plastic bags, right? It's a
Right.
decision that I'm gonna make for me. Um, you may never get. You may. I was working with this Asian family the other day, Ken, and their culture is different, right? And where they're not, dad ain't coming to hug you and tell you if you old school, they not coming and hugging you and tell you love you and all that stuff, and they have set expectations. Um, and that's where they are. And so she was like, I don't know. I've written my dad's letters. I've done this. I've whatever. I've done all these things, and he's there. And I said, well, you got to meet him wherever he is. Just meet him there and love him from that space.
Yeah, I think when it comes to healing, the thing that people dismiss and don't take into consideration is the ing,
Mm-hmm.
right? The ing means continuing,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
It means perpetual motion.
Mm-hmm.
So if you say healing,
Mm-hmm.
it means that
It's
the
moving.
process
Yeah.
is moving
Yeah.
because you never say heal,
Yeah.
right? Heal is something
Mm-hmm.
else. Heal is going from hurt or broke
And I'm good now.
to fixed and healthy.
Right.
That's heal.
Right.
I have Jesus
Right.
heals, right?
Right.
He
Right.
heals. But everybody else is healing,
Healing is
right?
as we said earlier, it's a process. It's a process. It's a process.
Right.
It's a process. And like I said, Kim, man, everybody lighting at the end of the tunnel, like, dude, how can he forgive the kid who killed his brother? I get it all the time. It's crazy because
Right.
he'll be sitting in the audience and Cass will be like, yo, I would have did this. I would have, yeah. They have no idea he's been sitting in the audience right beside him. And I'll say now the next voice you hear is a young man who actually took my brother's life. Whole place goes crazy.
Mhm.
Whether it's 1,000 or 6,000, they go crazy because they have no idea he's in the room. Um, it's a process, man. It's a
Yeah.
process, and it's a decision. I'm gonna stay stuck, or I want my freedom. I want to take my power back. And I'm telling
Mhm.
everybody under the sound of my voice, man, forgiveness is not for the other person; it's for you. And you know, sometimes, sometimes, y'all, we don't get the situation don't get easier, Ken. We just get stronger, right?
Mm.
We get stronger. We get to go over to Mama's house and see your cousin who you who you loan $500 to, and you know that's a part of your mortgage, and she stopped answering the phone on the 29th of the month before, and you know it's the
Right.
fifth, and you know but you see her. Um,
Yeah.
every time you see her on the gram, she got her hair did, nails done, all you know. Like, yo, where's my
Yeah,
money?
we ain't even talk about money. That's a whole nother podcast. We ain't
Please,
going
man,
with the
please. You know, so it's levels to it, man. But when I tell folks, Ken, that we work together, man, and fathers, listen, man, listen. Um, you got to begin the healing process, and you might have got dogged out. How can I forgive her? How can I? I want you to remember, it's not for them.
Mhm.
It's for you.
Mhm.
It's for you. Go play golf, Holmes. Go,
Mhm.
go do something to make you happy. And is it tough? Yeah. Is it tough to have those difficult but courageous conversations? Yeah. Coming from your kids or
Mhm.
coming from your wife or coming from your partner, coming from whatever. But you got to make a decision that I can't stay stuck no more. Because I'm asking you,
Mhm.
how's that working for you? One kid's,
Yeah.
man, one of my frat brothers, he ain't talked to his mother in 8 years. I said, man, if I could
Wow.
reach through the phone, Ken, and punch you in the mouth, I
Mhm.
would. Because here's the
Mhm.
deal. You imagine how many people wish they can have one more conversation with their mother,
Right.
eat a piece of cornbread, smell a scent, and you got a mom and you ain't talking to her for some nonsense?
Right.
And
Right.
my piece is, fathers, we gotta take the lead, because my question is, what legacy will we leave? Right? What legacy will we leave our babies or our children's children's children? Because it ain't really about
Mm.
just us.
Right.
We gotta make a decision that we gonna heal. If you got two brothers and y'all not speaking, 9 times out of 10, your kids not speaking either. The wives not speaking. And so when we go
Right.
to the same place, I don't even own you because our dads are beefing. No. Is that the legacy you want to leave for this? No.
Right.
And so, forgiveness, man, it's a process. Um,
Mhm.
but I'm gonna tell you,
Mhm.
you're one decision away from changing your life for the rest of your life. You get
Yeah.
it now or get it later, but you're one decision away from changing your life
Mhm.
for the rest of your life.
I was going to ask you with the young man over the years that you've been working
Mhm.
with him, what is the most significant change that you've seen in him?
Um, I think he's taking more seriously his own journey, his own healing journey, right? Um, because where we've forgiven him, no, let me not say everybody, because not everybody in my family
Mhm.
is where I am, right?
Right.
Um,
Mhm.
but we've forgiven him. I've forgiven him. But in some cases, I don't think he's fully forgiven himself.
Mm.
And so now in this process, helping to assist, um, seeing him doing better with his mental health, seeing him doing better with different coping and that sort of stuff. So, and um, how powerful is it, man, that you took somebody's life? Because what I said to him in court when I shook his hand is that you've been known for taking life. Now, unless you and I go to save some lives together. How powerful is that? That this young man who's humble, who's remorseful, who's pleading for forgiveness, all those things put his put himself in harm's way or harm's way to help somebody else to heal um, by sharing his story, sharing our story, which is this work ain't easy, man. It's traumatic.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's traumatic,
Mhm.
but to be able to
Mhm.
do that, be able to give that gift to folks all across the country and some parts of the world, man, is amazing. So I'm, y'all probably trip, but
Mhm.
I ain't. Don't trip on me. I love him. I'm
Right.
very protective of him.
I was going to ask you, does he confide in you about anything?
Oh yeah, man. Oh yeah, man.
Yeah.
Bruh, I remember. I remember it was one of the coldest days. He had just came home, and we. This is not where he confided in me, but we just had a beautiful conversation. And he said to me, it was like 12 something at night. He called up, the phone rang, and I got up and went outside. And it was one of the coldest days. He says, "I don't know how to do this. How do you do it? How do you make it out here?
Hmm.
Imagine being in a box for 25 years, and now where everybody told you when to eat, when of this, when of that, when of this, and now you are here, and you're dealing with relationships, you're dealing with trickery, you're dealing with all these systems that you don't understand. Um, yeah, man. So it's I love him, man. I'm very protective of him, and we don't
Hmm.
feel crazy questions. Hopefully, hopefully, folks that's listening. Hopefully, Ken, you'll bring us back on, and I'll bring them with me, and hopefully, folks
Hmm.
under the sound of our voice will bring us to their company organization. Will come. Um, Synagogue, dining room table, family reunion, wherever.
Yeah. Nah, let's do that. Let's plan for that. I need to include you on some things that I have in mind,
Mhm.
and thought that would be extremely powerful. What's a good day for you? What's a good day when
Uh,
you go home at night and you was like, as the immortal words of that great poet Ice Cube said,
it
today
was a
was a
good
good
day.
day.
Um,
Yeah.
seeing the magic of forgiveness. That's a
Mm.
good when folks say, "Listen, um, my dad uh, came. He didn't come to school to drop me off, but he came with my mother to pick me up. Now he went to school with all three, four of my other siblings to drop them off. But my freshman year, I'm the baby. He doesn't do it. But at but he came and picked me up with my mom, and we not huggers, but I hugged him, Professor Green.
Mm.
Or to see the light bulb go on, man. The folks like, yo, I can really teach people how to treat you. Yeah, you got to teach people how to treat you. So,
Mm-hmm.
man, listen, I don't even work at Morgan. They just put something in my account every 2 weeks, right? But this healing, this work, man, when folks finally get it, and it comes back and these beautiful testimonies of how they were here, but now they're here. My man, God gets
Mm-hmm.
all the glory. I'm just glad that he gave me the assignment, um, and that I was obedient enough to listen, y'all. And so I don't work, man. Listen, we can keep talking
Yeah,
another 3 hours, but
absolutely.
yeah, it is. That's a good day, man. It's a good day when you see families reunited. You know, when
Mm-hmm.
you see siblings reunited. Um, one of the powerful videos I've seen was Magic Johnson and Isaiah Thomas after 30 years. 30
Mm-hmm.
years of holding on to something, man. And both these grown men are crying and embracing each other after 30 years and saying, man, please forgive me.
Yeah,
That's
we're still waiting on the Isaiah Thomas, Michael Jordan one. That's the
yeah.
one I'm waiting on.
Yeah. So this work this work is very emotional. Um
Yeah,
it's very emotional, man. And so um but we gotta get it, and we gotta get it now because our babies need us, right? Our
right.
babies need us to show up. Show up,
Mm-hmm.
fathers, show up. Um, show up. Just I don't care how much you get abused, though, show up. But imagine a kid saying, I can't wait. A father saying, I can't wait for y'all to turn 18 so you can get off so I can stop paying child support.
Mm-hmm.
So when they look at that, these babies are hearing that message. So all I am to you is a payment. So, dude,
Finance,
it is a financial deal. Um,
right.
yeah. So, and you could be in a home, same house, and not be home.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. And so,
Tell people how they can get in touch with you, bro. How they can support you, how they can find you, how they can hire you, how they can get you to come in.
all of the above. Listen, thank y'all for listening. I should hope I said something today, Ken, that made sense, man. That's helping folks move towards healing, reconciliation, forgiveness. You can contact us directly through our website at www.deepforgiveness. That's DEEPFORGIVENESS.com. That's deepforgiveness.com. Via email, it's info at deepforgiveness.com. Or you can dial us directly in the office at area code 443-739-3260. We'll come to your church, your company. Listen, hurt people hurt people. When I'm telling you, we got a lot of folks that's hurting. We're doing a lot of work with fraternities and sororities now because some folks in churches, some hurt. I mean, there's no hurt like church hurt, or there's no hurt like
Mm-hmm.
Delta hurt. There's no hurt like Omega Psi Phi hurt. So
Mm-hmm.
um, uh, reach out, man, and I'm looking forward to coming and setting your place. And let me just say this before we leave, Ken. You're doing an amazing, amazing, and amazing job, sir. So when you talk about Ice Cube was a good day, today was a good day, and thank you for providing this platform for myself and others, because the message that you given, man, we were invisible for a long time, man. It's
Yeah.
time to bring us out of the cold, right? It's time,
Mm-hmm.
come on, have a seat at the table. And
Mm-hmm.
and if I can't love you, who gonna love you? If you can't
Right.
love me, who gonna love me? You
Right.
know what I'm saying? And that's
Yeah.
why we as men, we gotta keep our finger on the pulse. Check in on a brother. How you doing? What's going on? You all right? How you really doing?
Mm-hmm.
And so,
Right.
listen, do not book me if you don't want fire. Do not book me. Listen, I woke up like this. I can show you better than I can tell you. But we're doing work for national organizations all across the country, helping them to heal, y'all. So if you have an opportunity, we have books. Oh, I forgot to show you this, Ken. This is us on front cover of People Magazine. A brutal
Look
murder.
at you. Look at you. Look at you. I see it up
Brutal
top.
murder, shocking decision. Why I forgave my brother's killer. Here's our book. It's a great stuffing stocking. Go to the website, y'all. And then we also have our t-shirts. These t-shirts, Deep Forgiveness, Ken, as you know, man, are all over the world. We got folks in Norway on a little what's-name boat, just with the long stick. So thank you, man. But reach out to us at www.deepforgiveness.com, info@deepforgiveness, an email. Send a pigeon. Hell, we'll come. We'll come, man. We'll come. Thank you, man. Thank you,
bro.
Thank you.
Definitely. And thank you so much. I love you, and there's absolutely nothing you can do
Hey,
about
man,
it.
Ken, the same thing. I love you, brother. And they don't understand that. I love you. We love each other. Ain't nothing you can do about it. Hey, look, it ain't nothing I want to do about it either.
And to my I Am Dad podcast listeners, you know how I like to leave you. Always be kind to others as you're kind to yourself, or you might find yourself by yourself.
Woo!
Always shoot high, because even if you miss, you'll be amongst the stars. And that's my good friend and mentor, Art Mitchell, used to always say to me, Kenny, it's nice to be important, but it's much more important to be nice. Until next Sunday, God bless and peace out.
Peace.
Thank you so much for taking the time to spend with us. You've been listening to I Am Dad Podcast. We hope that you have been informed, encouraged you to think, or even inspired your heart for the love of dads. The conversation does not end here. Come back and join us next week. Same time, same place. Or you can continue the dialogue on our I Am Dad Facebook page. We also invite you to listen to past episodes, learn more about us, and keep up with special activities by visiting IamDadPodcast.com. That's IamDadPodcast.com. Until next time, I leave you with this reminder of manhood from 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 11. When I was a child, I spoke as a child. I understood as a child. I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. Because of this reminder, I will always understand that I am Dad, period.